Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. There are still some vacant seats up here for anybody who's still standing. It's good to see so many people turn out this week as last week. People who are interested in the welfare of Garwood. I want to thank the 4 people who are sitting to my left and right. They've committed themselves to serving the rest of us in the years to come. And that is no small sacrifice of time and effort. We are all in their debt, winners or losers. Now, the candidates have been asked to avoid personal attacks. We hope for a rigorous but civil discussion of the issues that are important to the borough. Because the acoustics in this room are somewhat questionable, I've asked all of the candidates to stand when they're speaking. And I hope I don't hear any complaints see any complaints on Facebook that that's unfair because some candidates are taller than others. It's an imperfect world. I would caution you that Paul Tarantino is videotaping this meeting, and ancillary noise interrupts that process. So unless you're asking a question or responding to a question, I hope we can keep the noise reasonably low so that the videotape will make sense. The plan for this evening is we will have 3-minute opening statements. They will be delivered in alphabetical order. The candidates are seated in alphabetical order. Chris Spear, the timekeeper, will give a warning, and each candidate has 1 minute remaining. Then I will ask questions submitted by the public or devised by me. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. Again, Chris will offer a 1-minute warning. We will alter the order. Ms. Kearney will give the first opening statement. Mr. Petruzzelli will respond first to the initial question. Ms. Simitz to the next question. Ms. Todisco to the next question, and so on. Then we will have 3-minute closing statements. And again, Chris will offer a 1-minute warning. So let's get started. Carol Kearney is a Republican candidate. She's the owner of a Garwood travel agency and was a council candidate in 2011. She's first vice chairman of the Greater Westfield Area Chamber of Commerce. In that capacity, she planned and coordinated Garwood Rocks, the street fair that took place this summer. She's a Newark native and a police officer's widow. In the 1990s, she fought successfully for state reforms that protect the pension rights of first responders' widows. Ms. Kearney, 3 minutes.
Before I start my statement, I would just like to make something perfectly clear. I am a Republican. I have been on the county Republican line since before the primary election. And I chose to run my own campaign out of necessity with my own literature, signs, and I am an independent thinker, and I will vote according to the principles and not how someone else thinks I should vote. Now on to my opening statement. I want to thank Mr. Conley for arranging this great opportunity for me to speak directly to the citizens of Garwood. I have a proven track record of accomplishments when faced with adversity. Through my efforts over a 3-year period of time, I worked with the New Jersey legislature to change the New Jersey pension law that permits police officer and firefighters' widows to rightly receive a portion of their spouse's pensions which were denied them due to a loophole in the law. The bill was passed and signed by the governor in 1997. I own and operate a travel agency here in Garwood since 2000 and have managed to keep it operating when many others have closed their doors due to the internet-based travel. The level of service that I provide, the knowledge I have in the travel industry, and my personal service keeps my clients coming back. I was appointed Business and Industry Liaison by the mayor in 2011. I am a licensed real estate broker in New Jersey. I was the event director for Garwood Rocks, which was a huge success and brought thousands of people into the borough. I revitalized the Chamber of Commerce here in Garwood, which now has 30 businesses actively participating. When I merged the Greater Westville area with the Greater Westville area, when I merged the Garwood Chamber with the Greater Westville Area Chamber of Commerce, I became vice president at the chamber and I am on the executive board. I ask that you consider my experience and proven track record and what I can bring to council when you vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Louis Petruzzelli, he's an incumbent and a Democratic candidate. He's the owner of an electrical contracting company. He has served on the Borough Council since 2009. He is the council liaison to the Athletic Complex Project. A graduate of Union High School and Union County Vocational Technical School. He's a member of the Greater Westfield Area Chamber of Commerce and the Garwood Lions Club. He has served on the Garwood Planning Board and the Garwood PTA and has been vice president of the Garwood Baseball League. Mr. Petruzzelli.
Thank you. It's really nice to see everybody here, this evening. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Conley and the Pointe Board for hosting this event tonight. It's nice to see everybody, and I really appreciate the time that everyone's giving here for you to get to know me better. I moved into Garwood in October of 1993. Okay, so for me, this is kind of an anniversary month. When me and my wife, Jackie, at the time purchased a home, we were engaged. 2 months later, we got married. We raised 3 kids in this community. As a volunteer in the Township of Union, as a fireman from where I grew up, volunteering came as a natural thing for me. So as my children grew, I got involved in the Garwood Little League. I said yes, as many fathers do, to help coaching their kids. When they asked me to coach for recreation, for basketball, I said yes to that as well. When I was approached to coach Pop Warner football, because I have previous football playing experience over in Union, I said yes to that as well. I was also approached to go on to the planning board because of my construction background. I also said yes to that. And I am also a member of the Garwood Lions Club when they asked. I have always had that sign me up attitude and put me into something where I can get my hands into so I can get things done for people. The mentality of somebody like myself as a volunteer, I think, is a good quality to have when you're on council, because it gives you the ability to show what you're able to do and how you're driven to make things happen when it's something that you really care about. And being on council is really something that I care about the most, because it is the betterment of Garwood, which is what I'm looking forward to.
1 minute left.
Thank you. In addition to my government experience, I have owned my own electrical contracting business for the past 24 years. It's based right here in Garwood. My business and government experiences guide me in making informed decisions for the betterment of our town. I have worked with both Democrat and Republican mayors and councils. I'm not interested in playing the game of politics, okay, but I would rather focus on our residents, our neighbors, and moving Garwood forward. If re-elected to council, I will continue to work hard for our residents, striving to maintain services at the lowest possible cost, and seeking out new ideas will improve this great borough. Garwood deserves no less than the best that I have to offer, and that begins with experience and commitment. Thank you.
Tina Simitz is the Republican candidate. She works at a mid-sized marketing agency in Norristown. She's the mother of 3 school-age children, a member of the Lincoln School PTA, banquet chair for her son's Cub Scout pack, and a local advocate for children with autism. She graduated cum laude from Rutgers College with a bachelor's degree in journalism, journalism and history, and is a member of Phi Beta Kappa. Ms. Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Connolly, and thank you to the folks of the Pointe and the residents of Garwood for coming out today. I'm probably one of the newer members to Garwood. I purchased my home in Garwood with my husband just over 4 years ago with our 3 children. Growing up, I lived in northwest New Jersey, out in Sussex County, where we didn't have any neighbors nearby, we didn't have any sidewalks. My poor mother had to drive us everywhere, and the closest supermarket was 5 miles down the road. So we always knew that we wanted to raise our children in a neighborhood where the kids could walk to school, where they could play football at the park on Sundays, and get a job locally so that they learn the value of money. When I was thinking about what to say in my opening, it struck me as funny because my parents were both school teachers, and we were one of those households where my mother had the envelopes of money laid out in a drawer in her bedroom. So there was a certain amount of money for food shopping, a certain amount of money for clothing, and when that money was out, there was no more money. We didn't live with credit cards and we didn't live with debt. So when we started to think about moving, we moved from Linden. We looked in Clark and Cranford, and we ultimately decided on Garwood because of its small town feel and the proximity, the convenience of so many nearby areas. Like so many others, we found the town to be so warm and welcoming. When Sal Pierulli approached me about running for councilwoman, I was definitely intrigued but not convinced. With 3 kids, a husband and a dog, and working full-time, thoughts of how to juggle all these activities crossed my mind. But Sal encouraged me to attend a council meeting, admittedly my first. So after I attended that first council meeting, I was absolutely convinced. I was surprised at what I saw, and I regret not becoming involved in the community sooner. 1 minute left. To see that there were no answers about deadlines on completion for the field, which was personally one of my main concerns for my school-age son, who now we've lost a whole generation of kids to Clark sports. Given those ongoing delays, my son doesn't want to play baseball in the spring. Assumptions that the builder would pay for items on the punch list, and things like the contractor is doing the best that he can. I didn't understand why we were making excuses for the builder and not representing our residents of Garwood. Another gentleman inquired about road work in front of his house, and he was dismissed quickly with no answers. If I had known that this is how our town operates, I would have gotten involved a lot sooner. And the only way that I can see to make up for that lost time is to represent all of the residents of Garwood and to be the best councilwoman possible if elected. And if elected, I pledge to represent all of Garwood's residents to the best of my abilities, whether they've lived in town for 1 year or 100 years. Thank you.
Sara Todisco is an incumbent and a Democratic candidate. She is a social studies teacher in Chatham. She has been a member of the council since 2011, served as its president in 2013, and she chairs the finance committee now. She graduated summa cum laude from Northeastern University with a bachelor's degree in history and a minor in business. She is a 4th-generation Garwood resident President of the Education Foundation of Garwood, Vice President of the Garwood Lions Club, and girls softball coach for the Garwood Baseball League. Mr. Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Connolly. Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see such a great turnout here tonight. I'm very proud to say that I have lived here in Garwood my entire life. I come from a family that has lived in Garwood generation after generation after generation, dating back to actually when it was founded in 1903. Well, in fact, my family was actually here before it was founded. They were here when we were just a part of Westfield and a part of Cranford. And maybe it's just the history teacher in me, but I would really love to go back and, if possible, I would ask them what it was like to live in a town where they were treated like second-class citizens to Cranford and to Westfield. And then what it was like to be part of the movement that made Garwood what it is today. And that is being a small but independent and strong borough. In addition to Garwood being the home of my family for many generations, this has been the place that has given them the opportunity to start businesses, dating back to my great-grandfather's barbershop that was located on North Avenue here in town. The reason my family has stayed here generation after generation is the same reason why so many residents have moved here from other places. And I just want to say that it's been my absolute privilege and honor to be your council person for the past 4 years. And I'm very proud to say that I kept every single one of my campaign promises that I made to you 3 years ago. I kept my promise to always maintain services. In my voting record and my actions on the council, you can see that I always maintained services, and also enhancing services whenever possible was something that I took pride in. Also, I've maintained fiscal responsibility, and also I've promoted redevelopment, just as I said I would do. My finance team and I have funded, with the support of the council, studies and plans for the redevelopment of North and South Avenue. There's no, thank you. There is no, I'm sure everyone can see, we have quite a bit of industrial space here in Garwood that's quite an eyesore. But what I look at that as is opportunity. That's opportunity to bring in beautiful places like we're in today, where we have new businesses coming into town, as well as new residents. And we can bring in much needed revenue from redevelopment, which is what a lot of other towns throughout New Jersey have done in order to keep taxes low, or even to a zero, or even at a decrease. So I'm very proud to say that I've kept my campaign promises in the past, and I plan to keep them in the future. So if you vote for me on November 4th, know that I will always strive to maintain services for the residents at the absolute best possible price. And finally, I would just want to thank Mr. Connolly and the Pointe Board for having me here tonight. It's my privilege to be here for actually the 4th time. I've been invited to speak on a number of occasions, and each time it is a pleasure. So thank you.
Okay, first question. The athletic field complex has become a $3 million embarrassment. Who's responsible for that? What should be done about it? And how can we prevent similar problems in the future? Mr. Petruzzelli, you go first.
Well, being that I am the liaison to council for the athletic field, so I guess I'm the guy who's down there every single week. I've attended monthly construction meetings ever since the beginning, which was December 2012. As far as it being a $3 million embarrassment, I support the field. I support the athletic field when it came up, and I support the athletic field now. I'm not embarrassed by it. As far as who's responsible for it, I guess it would be the people who voted for the athletic field. Okay, I think that the entire town is going to have a great chance to enjoy something that is very special and is going to be very unique to Garwood. I don't think that it's an embarrassment at all. And as far as going forward with any other projects, the one issue when you go into prevailing wage and lowest bid, these are some of the issues that can happen with that. Okay, because you are physically held to take the lowest bidder. So for me, that's something that should be looked at if any other projects do come to Garwood, moving forward. Thank you.
I just want to say that I appreciate the work that Councilman Petruzzelli has done in trying to get this field open for the kids of Garwood, because as I mentioned, that was one of my main motivating factors why I decided to run, because I do have 3 children, and I was an initial supporter of the field. They probably have an email on record from me supporting the field. But little did I know that, first of all, the field was never put up for a vote. There was no referendum for the people of this town to be able to decide on whether they wanted that field or not. And whether you have kids or whether you don't, the town should have had an opportunity to vote on that field. Second, the field is already over budget. The initial price tag on the field was $2.1 million. Now it's over $3.2 million. In addition, the field has already tapped into our current operating budget with a security system of $46,000. I think 20 or so of it is coming out of our operating budget. And last but not least, what are the operating costs on this field? Can someone please tell me what those operating costs are? Because we've heard it's $2,000 to $3,000 a year. I can't imagine that's true. Who is running the field? Who's maintaining the field? Now that we've got a beautiful turf field, who is going to manage that? Are we going to leave that field up to volunteers to manage? I leave that up to the people of Garwood.
Mr. Disley.
Thank you. Well, I would agree with Councilman Petruzzelli. I am not embarrassed that I voted for the athletic field complex, which I much prefer to call a recreation complex, because I think athletic field insinuates it's just for kids, and that is definitely not what this project is. It's for every Garwood resident to enjoy, from children on up to the senior citizens. As far as this project goes, I would disagree that it's over budget. It is certainly not over budget from the amount that was bonded for it back in 2012. If you compare it to 2007, well, things changed. The project itself completely changed. In fact, if we want to discuss the finances of the project a little bit, which I think deserves some airtime, we're actually essentially getting this project at half off, because we took in $1.2 million in grant money from the state and county governments for this project. I understand that grant money is taxpayer dollars as well. However, I believe the county and the state will spend that money someplace or another, whether it's Garwood or somewhere else, so I'm happy to see it coming back to Garwood. Also, we had $630,000 in revenue that was earmarked specifically for a project like this one. So that leaves us with a real cost of $1.5 million. So again, essentially half price. Although I am proud to say that I support the project, I can say I'm completely frustrated by the delays, as many residents are, as Councilman Petruzzelli is as its liaison, and I just want this done so we can really start enjoying this. And again, it will be a great place for children to enjoy. For example, this is the first time our middle school field hockey will have a home field, but also for the senior citizens to meet in our new clubhouse, for other organizations to use, for grandparents to bring their grandkids to the playground, whatever it may be. This is really a project for all of Garwood. Thank you.
Ms. Kearney.
The athletic field complex is a reality. It's here. We have to deal with it. We have to find different ways that we can fund it. I am absolutely certain that there is a committee that was appointed. Remember, I am a citizen just like you. I am not an elected official. I do not have the knowledge that our incumbents have. I was told by the mayor that there was a committee appointed 18 months ago. The committee has been working diligently to pull together who is going to run the field, how much it's going to cost, a lot of different points, which I'm not privy to. So my whole thought on this matter is we have it, it's a reality, let's move forward with it. And I will tell you that when I ran for office 4 years ago with Stephen Blaufetter, I was not a proponent of the athletic field complex. I would have voted it down.
Next question. Garwood's taxes have increased every year since 2001. Some of the borough's surplus was used to limit the increase in the current budget. Should more of those funds have been used to eliminate the increase? How much surplus should the borough maintain? What specific, and I emphasize specific steps, would you take to control further increases? Ms. Simitz.
Thank you. So right now, we're looking at the surplus question. And I cannot speak to what the appropriate amount of surplus is to have in our bank account. But what I do know is, once you have a certain level of surplus, beyond that level, it becomes a slush fund. And we certainly don't want that to happen. If we can get that money back into the taxpayers' pockets, that's something that I would certainly want to look at. I guess what I don't understand is we have a $7.2 million budget in this town, and we need to do a better job of managing that budget. I do not have a line of sight into each and every one of those line items in that budget, but I think what I do know is that we need to be far more diligent on our day-to-day spending. For example, if a roof needs to be repaired at the Borough Hall, we should certainly get more than one bid for that roof repair. Because the councilman sitting up here approved a $70,000 roof repair, when ultimately the full roof was completed for $33,000. I know as a taxpayer, when I have a repair in my house, I certainly do some homework and get multiple bids. I also think that the town is left with an increased debt, 66% increase because of the field. And so for that, I can't say how that's going to impact the taxes moving forward. But it's going to be certainly a nut to crack. And as I mentioned, those unaccounted costs for field maintenance, who's to say? Thank you.
Mr. Todisco.
Thank you. First, I would like to reject the notion of a surplus as a slush fund. In our own lives, we need to have money in a savings account for those times when we need it. For a municipality, we need a surplus in order to pay the school and county the portion of taxes that they require before we collect all our revenue and before we even receive the state aid for the year. Surplus can also be used to stabilize taxes, and very importantly, it's something that bondholders and investors look at favorably if you have some surplus in order to look at us as a valuable investment to basically buy our debt. And here in Garwood, we actually do have a surplus policy, so I know the state doesn't have any guidelines, but we do have guidelines here in Garwood that we unanimously approved as a council back on November 27th of 2012 that states we should have 8% of the total appropriations put away in surplus. Well, that doesn't mean we have to, but we do have a policy of something to strive towards. And just so you know, right now we are under that 8% of our $7 million budget. Right now, after this budget was done, we have $266,032 in our surplus, which is consistent with previous years. And finally, I would also like to reject the notion that the 66% increase is just due to the athletic field. That's not true. I double checked with our CFO. It's the athletic field is 36% of our overall debt. I think it's very important that the residents have that number cleared up for them. So it's not 66, it's 30% of our total debt. That's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Kearney.
When I am elected, I will do prudent examinations of the budget. This is 36 pages of a budget. I will go over it line for line and make absolutely certain that the tax dollars are being spent correctly. We have a $7.8 million budget, as Sara mentioned. I will seek to cut spending, but not at the cost of cutting services to the borough. I will carefully examine again the budget. You also have to remember that we have 3 portions to our taxes here in Garwood. We have the municipal taxes, we have the Board of Education taxes, and we have the county.
1 minute.
The numbers you have to look at. Is it 30%, 40%, 60% on where our taxes go to and where our tax money is going to. Again, I said I will scrutinize the budget line for line, and hopefully we can either level out the taxes, and that's all I can say, because again, I am a resident just as you are, and I don't have all the facts.
Okay, I just want to echo what the finance chair said. Surplus is not a slush fund, as this word is being thrown around. Surplus is something that, again, that the borough needs in order to offset taxes and to take care of other things that come up. Okay, just like last year, we had a road project right over here on Maple Street where the road suddenly just fell apart by itself due to the bad winter. That cost around $12,000 to get that repaired. If you don't have money for things like that, you can't tell people to just not drive over the road. You have to repair it. Okay, the same thing that you would do in your own home if you had a sewer line break outside. Are you gonna tell people not to flush their toilets? No, you're gonna have to get that stuff fixed. And as far as the athletic field debt, Sara is correct. It is only 36%, not the 66% that everyone seems to think is correct. That other remaining percentage is for road projects and other things that have gone on in the borough that needed to be funded. Thank you.
What specific, and again, I emphasize specific steps would you take to encourage the redevelopment of North and South Avenues? Should the borough offer incentives, that is, tax breaks, to encourage development? Mr. Todisco?
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. Well, I certainly, as I mentioned earlier, fully support redevelopment for Garwood. It would be a huge step forward for us to take those eyesores and turn them into revenue for the town. And also bringing in those businesses and bringing in residents, just like this complex has done, is a fabulous thing. We actually have taken specific steps. My finance team and I put together in this budget money for redevelopment studies and plans to foster the right kind of development on North and South Avenue to let the borough have a bit more of a say in what goes into our town, which affects all the residents. So we do want to have an active role in that. As far as giving tax incentives, I think that's an absolutely great idea. It's something we definitely need to look into further, so that's something we can do coming forward. And also, I would just like to point out that, once again, by bringing in that, thank you, by bringing in that additional revenue, that will lessen the tax burden for homeowners here in Garwood. So I fully support redevelopment, and I'm proud to say that we have already started moving forward on that, and I look forward to hopefully having great meetings with the future developers to bring great things here to Garwood. Thanks.
Ms. Coney?
Being business and industry liaison in town and working with the Chamber of Commerce, I keep a very close watch on storefronts being vacant. We have one storefront right now in our strip mall that has not been rented, and it has not been rented by the strip owner's choice. He said he wants to put the right type of business here in Garwood. So along with that, I support smart development here in Garwood. I believe the North and South Avenue corridors are the key to a viable community, a walking viable community here. the Casale properties,
1 minute.
the Garwood paperboard properties will be an absolute savings for the borough. It will bring in rateables, which we need to keep the taxes down. I cannot promise that taxes will never go up again, because anybody who makes a promise like that to anyone, I think that's an out and out lie. Again, I support smart development here in Garwood.
Mr. Petruzzelli.
As far as redevelopment, I was on the planning board when the tail end of this project actually came through, and I think that this was the perfect redevelopment that Garwood could have had. Being what was here before was the old Thomas and Betts company, they're manufacturers. I'm all for redevelopment. I think that the finance committee did the first step, which is to fund any of these studies in areas that are in need of redevelopment, which is the first thing. I also think that that redevelopment is the key to Garwood's future as we're coming out of the past, probably 40 years of being the industrial hub of Union County. There's been a lot of things that have happened up along the way ever since I've been here. We've had ShopRite come in, we've had Home Depot come in, so I definitely do support redevelopment, and it definitely has to be the right fit.
1 minute.
And we also need to look at the needs of the Garwood residents as well, and not just look for that redeveloper to just get whatever they're looking to put here. They need to work with the town as well. Thank you.
Ms. Simmons.
Thank you. I think this is a topic that we probably all agree on. I'm certainly for redevelopment. I think we'd all like to see some nice new restaurants, some nice mixed building usage come into the town, just like they're doing over in Cranford. And I think that will help to bring much needed additional revenue into the town. The key here is redevelopment, not overdevelopment. And I certainly would not be in favor for bringing in a 300 unit apartment complex, because we need to make smart decisions moving forward. The town will be taxed in terms of their resources, in terms of the roads, the EMT, police, fire, and all the departments there if we bring in too many people into this town. We already know that the schools are becoming overcrowded. The first grade class has 26 kids in it right now. So we just need to be very smart about our redevelopment projects. Thank you.
New Jersey Transit will not offer more rail service to Garwood until there is more parking near the train station. What specific, again I emphasize, specific steps would you take to provide more parking? Ms. Kearney.
Again, very general answer I will give here. With our redevelopment, I don't know the specifics on it, but I do know that there will be parking involved. That's about all I could say about taking steps. I'll take that back. There is also, I believe, one of the committees was looking into parking, other parking facilities throughout the town. I don't know what the outcome is, because then again, I am not privy to that information because I am not on council. The only thing that I know is when I go to council meetings, I hear what's said up on the dais. So as far as parking goes, it's all tied to the redevelopment.
Mr. Petruzzelli.
Thank you. Actually, I am one of the council persons who is on the parking committee, and we are looking for real solutions, okay? The committee is looking at already paved areas in town, lots that we can utilize rather than trying to make our own. We are also mindful of, if we start to make permit areas on certain streets, like Second Avenue, I know that that's the issue, if you try to corral these incoming people who are using our side streets as their parking lot, we need to have a place for them to go, okay? So I think that the steps that are being put in place right now are the proper steps. I have to say that it was the Democrats who pushed to have the parking committee formed, because it was part of the transit study that was done when New Jersey Transit said that if you have parking, then we will give you more stops, which will give more ridership. So I think that right now, the town is on the right path for that by having this parking committee formed. Thank you.
Ms. Simmons.
Thanks. I like the idea of using paved lots that exist in town for the commuters who recognize and utilize our wonderful services of the train being right here. It's great. I think there's several issues around Second Avenue permit parking right now, because we've spoken to residents on Second Avenue and Third Avenue and Fourth Avenue, and we know parking is at a premium there to begin with. We also know that with the St. Anne's project coming in, parking probably will get even tighter over there. So we've got the church, we've got the school, and we've got the residents who live in that area. So I think we just need to be mindful of how we approach the parking situation. It'd be great if we could use some of the existing lots and charge for that. But I'm not privy to the information. I'm not sure what exactly we can do there, but I think first and foremost, we need to worry about the residents that live on those streets who already can't find parking spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to first echo what Councilman Petruzzelli said, that the Democrats pushed and worked with the mayor to create this parking committee. And then also I want to say that we really do need to increase parking and need to support commuters here in Garwood, because, as many of you know, a lot of the towns with frequent train stops have increased property values. So even if you don't personally commute using the train or using the bus, it can still help you to be part of this, solving this parking issue, because it has a direct effect on property values. And I think it's very important that we work to encourage more stops here in Garwood. I know I'll be, and I'm sure Councilman Yerstedt will be at the meeting on Monday night in Cranford, pushing for this one-seat ride. That would be a huge, huge step forward for Garwood and huge for everyone's property values. Also, I do agree, of course, in using existing blacktop, but I also do agree with Ms. Kearney that we need to be mindful of parking when a redeveloper approaches the town, particularly near the train, because right now we already have municipal employees, volunteer firemen, residents in snow emergencies parking there. So we need to definitely keep that in mind when we have a developer interested in that property. Thank you.
Mr. Petruzzelli is the only member of the council whose benefits are paid with public funds. That's legal, but is it justified? Should he waive his right to those payments? Mr. Petruzzelli.
I guess it's because it's me, it's easy.
It's your turn.
It's okay. As far as me being eligible for health benefits, yes, I am eligible for health benefits. And based on my situation, I do elect to take those health benefits. The other thing is, and I don't know if anybody knows this, but the borough spends about $1 million a year on health benefits, okay? And through the contribution of employees that was in place, I am also one of those employees who makes contributions to their health benefits as well. So, yes, I am the guy who takes the health benefits, and I am eligible for it. And again, based on my situation with a son with, special needs, that's why I do it. Thank you.
I mean, I don't even have to get up for this. I'm just going to say that is Mr. Petruzzelli's personal business, and I don't think there's any place for that in an election.
I would completely echo what Mrs. Simitz just said. It's absolutely his personal business, and I think none of us really know what we would do unless we were in his shoes, and fortunately a lot of us are not. But again, we don't know what we would do if we were council members, so.
Ms. Kearney.
I feel that the benefits were given to Mr. Petruzzelli very many years ago. And he's not a full-time employee. So maybe there should be more money given towards his benefits. I don't know what the numbers are for anybody else in town hall, how much that they put in. I don't know how much of a percentage that they put in. Say you're an employee, just take a number, $50,000. How much would an employee at making $50,000 put in towards their health care benefits? Plus what Mr. Petruzzelli receives as his yearly stipend, which I believe is $2,500. It should be some type of a balance of how much money that he's going to put in towards his medical benefits. That's all I have to say.
Ms. Kearney and Ms. Simitz, you're both Republicans. Why haven't you campaigned together or endorsed one another? Ms. Simitz.
Well, it's funny because Miss Kearney actually came to my door a few days before I decided to join the Republican ticket. And I had a short conversation with her. I think she was with Mike Martin, and I think you picked up the toys that my daughter had thrown out the window. So I remember the conversation. I know you guys speak to a lot of people, so you might not have remembered me, but I remembered you. And the first question that I said was, what party are you? And they said Republican, and I said, great, you've got my vote. Carol handed me her sponge. She told me how she did Garwood Rocks, which was awesome. My own family enjoyed a day out. My son spent from sunup to sundown out at the dead-end streets that he plays on. So I don't know why Ms. Kearney is not running on our ticket, and I think you can ask that to her. Thank you.
I don't have to answer that, right, Mr. Conley? I know next.
I made it very clear from day one that I was going to run my own campaign. I did not want to be tied to anyone. This is not the only town that people have their own literature and their own signs. I am an independent thinker, and again, I do not like to be tied to anyone. If there's a problem with that, why? I was not endorsed, let me get this out in the open. I was not endorsed by the chair of the Borough of Garwood. I was endorsed by the county, and that's when I decided I was going to run my own campaign. And I have nothing much else to say other than that. And I ran my campaign very successfully, and my sponges I hope everybody uses to clean up garbage. So.
Okay, what will you do to foster better communications with the public? Should social media be employed? Should the Garwood Facebook page be restored with appropriate guidelines? Mr. Todisco.
Thank you. Communication with residents is very, very important. Joining the council in 2011, I can say that communication was shaky at, I don't want to say at best, I don't mean to be so negative about it, but communication really wasn't great. As a council person, I advocated for the return of a borough newsletter, which has come back in the past 2 years, the Garwood Gazette, which you are receiving quarterly. That was something I advocated for. I worked with the mayor to push forward, and the council agreed. Also, I worked with the mayor and the borough administrator to advance updates to our borough website, which I think are very important. That website is a lot better today than it was just a few years ago. Also now it comes with a mobile version, so it's getting into the 21st century like we are. With a lot of us have smartphones, so it just makes sense. To answer your question specifically about Garwood having a Facebook page, absolutely. I think social media is great, and that it should be, according as our attorney said, it should be regulated. And once regulated, I fully support it. Thank you.
I support social media. I support a Facebook page for the Borough of Garwood. But you also have to realize there are a lot of seniors in town that do not have computers or any access to social media, so there has to be another way to get the word out. And I think that about covers it.
Mr. Petruzzelli?
Yes, with finance, yes, we did fund to redo the webpage to make it easier, so it's on mobile, just like, Councilwoman Sara Todisco had said. I am for social media. I think I might have been one of the persons on council who asked about the Facebook page and try to get it going, because that all kind of started because when Hurricane Sandy hit and there was lack of communication because of what was going on, there were other towns around us that were communicating through Twitter, through Facebook, and I don't want to say Instagram, but I don't know, whatever forms are out there, that's how they were getting it done. So I do support having the Facebook page brought back up, and I think that it's an important piece, but I think obviously we need to have some type of regulation on that as well. As far as seniors, we also brought back the news, the newsletter that gets mailed, every 3 months, so at least people can read up on things. Some things already happened already. However, unfortunately, that is a way that the seniors do get a chance to see what's going on in the town. And I definitely support all forms of social media, so this way the borough can, get their message out, when they need to, in the event of an emergency or otherwise. Thank you.
Ms. Simmons?
Thank you. Well, as a marketer, I absolutely support communications to the town, and I think there are possibly more efficient ways we can do that. I appreciate the fact that not everybody has access to a computer or to a mobile smartphone. So I think something that we could probably do is to enlist the residents in terms of, when you get flyers from Tide Detergent, you get to check, do you want a hard copy newsletter, do you want email, would you like texts? So I think there may be more efficient ways that we could distribute that newsletter, because we could do that via PDF and save the cost of printing there. So I would certainly advocate that, because I do think the newsletter is valuable. People look forward to it, people read it, and it's a nice way to keep the residents informed of the news in the town, because as we know, not everybody is able to attend council meetings. As for the Facebook page, I absolutely advocate in bringing it back. I think it needs to be used properly. Thank you.
We've been told that the athletic complex will be a source of revenue because outsiders will use it. Who will manage that process? What restrictions should apply? Who should be responsible for maintenance and security? Ms. Kearney.
Again, there's a committee in place that is working on every single item that you just addressed. I do not have the answers to any of those questions, but if elected, I will research and have answers for the residents of the borough of Garwood.
Mr. Petruzzelli.
Thank you. That's another one of my committees that I'm on, that actually
Sitting next to me.
is actually setting up, the rules and regulations for the athletic field, so when it comes. We just had our last meeting. We haven't even given the new ordinance to the council members, so there's not really too much that I can talk about it, other than the fact that, yes, there are going to be fees in place, and they are going to cover the costs of the athletic field, as well as extra money that will also be a part of that for the use of the field, whether it be using the facilities with the bathrooms, the baseball field, the multi-purpose field, and it will be open to residents and also non-residents of Garwood. And we also have to abide by the open space because they have to monitor exactly what we do with everything. I think that pretty much covers as far as I could say. Thank you.
Thank you. So, to me, this is an interesting question, right? Because again, I work in marketing, I work on projects for large pharmaceutical clients. And when they ask us to start a project, we think about these things before we start the project. So the fact that an ordinance hasn't been created yet on the rules and the regulations of the field is a little concerning to me. I, like the residents, I think, have a lot of questions about who's actually running the field. Is our recreation director now running the field and scheduling all of the events for not only Garwood, but for all these towns in the county that can now come in and use our field? How are we managing security, and what kind of tax is that going to put on our EMT services and our police services? Another question that came to my mind, again, this is what goes through my head at night when I'm thinking about what the kids' activities are for the next day, is the field is now a year-round field. The field was never a year-round field before. So there's going to be kids playing on those fields Saturdays, Sundays, weeknights. Who is going to manage the DPW, the recycling, and all of the maintenance that comes along with the field? I just think that this is a very, very expensive proposition for the town, and we just don't even know the true cost of the field. And last, one other thing, in talking to the residents down on Spruce, they have questions about what time can the lights stay on until? You know, I don't want lights blaring in my backyard till 10 o'clock when I'm trying to get my 5-year-old daughter to bed. So I think I'm happy that a committee is put into place, but I think these things should have been answered before the field even started. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I would agree. It's great that we have a committee to look into these issues, of course, and I'm happy to hear that it sounds like they are just about done, and the rest of the council will be getting that information, which I look forward to receiving and then discussing at council meetings. Of course, I would agree about the lighting. That is something that we don't want to inconvenience residents while providing something, a benefit to the children and to the sports team that they can now play later hours and things like that. The maintenance of this complex in the past was done by volunteers, just as how many other complexes and fields around the whole country are maintained, but also it wasn't just volunteers. Our DPW did maintenance work there as well. So I would imagine that it would be the same, but again, I'm sure we are going to have lengthier conversations at council meetings about it, to say the least. If you've come to a council meeting, you know they can be quite lengthy. Also, I do think it's important to point out, with this revenue that we generate, that it will be going into a dedicated account to offset these maintenance costs. It's exactly what it's there for. And perhaps in the first year, yes, we'll have to put a few $1,000s in to get it started. But after that, it really should take care of itself if we are able to generate the revenue as we feel we can, based on organizations coming to us who really wish they could have used it this past fall. It's unfortunate for all of us that they couldn't, but it's good to know that they are interested. I think it's also important for the residents to know that we do have a warranty on the turf field that was included in this contract. So we did think about that item as well. Thank you.
What's your position on the military vehicles the police department has received from the federal government? Are they necessary? Is the borough able to maintain and insure them? Mr. Petruzzelli.
The vehicles that the police department just received from the Army surplus, we received them for free. Yes, they're being painted, they're going to be used by the police department should they need be. Again, just like what happened with Hurricane Sandy or Hurricane Irene when there was flooding. I think that it's a good thing for the borough to have. We also picked up a command center. It's not similar to what Westfield has, but we were able to use Westfield's when our generator was being put into place over at Borough Hall. So we could use that for that, as well, in the event of not having any form of communication from Borough Hall. That could also be set up. And interesting enough, also on the buildings and grounds, and this was something that we were talking about, now that we're getting these vehicles, I would like to see them put somewhere so they're just not sitting outside.
1 minute.
So that's something that I think that needs to be looked at, so they can go in some type of a shelter, so this way they, they will last longer. Thank you.
I I think it's great that we were able to get those emergency vehicles. I mean, we all know and lived through Hurricane Sandy. I mean, personally, we were out for, Lou, I don't know if you were, but we were out for one full week, and it was the most miserable week of our lives. Thank God we had, you know, a shelter to come home to, because we know that many residents of New Jersey didn't fare as well as we did in Garwood, so thank God. But I guess my only question would be, what are the maintenance costs on those vehicles? I'm not a mechanic, I can't say, but it's nice to know that we've got them in case we need them.
Thank you. Emergency vehicles, as like the ones we just got, have been in the news quite a bit. I think residents may be a little worried that they could be an abuse of police power or something like that. That's definitely not the case in Garwood, so I just want to point that out to everyone, that these are really just for emergencies. You will not be seeing Humvees drive down the street just for the heck of it. Being that we can get all this equipment for the case of emergencies, it's great. We've gotten this equipment at no cost to the borough, and it's valued at over $200,000. What that really means to you is that it actually would have cost us at least $100 per home in order to acquire that. So first of all, I think we have to say that it's a huge win for Garwood. We need to thank our chief of police and his team for bringing this here. And I know I have had personal conversations with the chief about maintenance of this equipment and so forth, but I really don't want to speak out of line. So I would think that's something that the chief should address, and perhaps at a future council meeting that could be done, and the residents will learn about that. And again, with this command center, the value of that alone is over $100,000. Westfield paid close to $500,000 for theirs. So this again is a huge win for Garwood, and I just want to thank the police department for all their hard work in acquiring this equipment and all the grants they've acquired over the years to help the borough. Thank you.
Ms. Kearney.
I concur with Sara. What I'd like to just add is to thank the chief again for the hard work that he put forth, his administrative fees to bring these vehicles into the borough at no cost to the borough. Again, the maintenance that has to be looked into, that there's maintenance on every vehicle that belongs to the borough now. So I think it's a great, the command center alone is just an awesome addition, let alone the Humvees. To get through the water, especially going under the underpass, as we all know, can get pretty high with water there. And again, just commend the chief for what he has done for the town. I think that's a great addition.
Should more services be shared with nearby towns? If so, with nearby towns, or with the county, or with the school board, school district? If so, which services? Ms. Simitz.
Thanks, Mr. Connolly. You know, it's a question that we've been talking about. I think we need to take a look at everything. I think we need to take a look at the municipal court. We need to take a look at DPW, and to see if it would benefit a town of Garwood size, because we need to make sure that it's right for the residents of Garwood. We're certainly not talking about taking any away services, but I understand that sometimes you think by outsourcing these services, you'll save money, and in the long run, it actually costs you more money. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the topic of shared services, I definitely think it's something we always need to look into, and particularly I think utilizing the county here would be a huge benefit. Generally speaking, we know, the county spends money, and so if we can work with them to bring more back to Garwood, I think that's excellent, because I don't necessarily know that our county taxes are going to go down anytime soon. I think it's important to note with shared service our experience right now with the building department, which was done in an effort to save money. But as we campaign this year, and as I did 3 years ago, and even walking the town last year as I did with our chairman Lombardo, just to speak to residents, even though we didn't even have any candidates on the ballot. Basically, residents are upset generally with the service from the building department. So I think we always need to be careful of what exactly we share and what the impact will be on the residents. And I also want to say that we have looked into sharing dispatch, and we did a job investigating that. We spoke with Fanwood, who right now is the only town in Union County that actually uses the county dispatch. So we learned a lot of valuable information there. The chief went around with us and helped us gather information about this. Specifically with the Fanwood situation, they shed light on something that I thought was very powerful, that it cost them more than $100,000 just to set up the relationship and that shared service. So again, I think we have to be very careful with shared services, always look into them, but always be aware of exactly the cost versus the reward.
Ms. Kearney?
Again, shared services should be looked into. Is it the best thing for the borough of Garwood? I don't have an answer to that question until I would see what the shared services, DPW, police department, the dispatch, specifically dispatch. Those services would need to be looked into because, as Sara said, the cost of setting up, going into the county or going to maybe Westfield or Cranford to do a shared service there may wind up costing us more money than saving us money. So yes, shared services should be looked into, and again, if I'm elected, I would have to research these exact services more thoroughly before I can give a more definitive answer.
Mr. Petruzzelli?
The borough already has shared services with the school for cleaning, so that's something that actually worked out pretty well. They actually do our cleaning services over at Borough Hall, and they also used to do cleaning services down by the Little League when rec was down there. So I would imagine that would also, maintain as well. We use Cranford, like Sara said, for our building department. Not too many residents are really happy with it. They kind of feel like they get pushed down the line. Not to beat up on Cranford Building Department, because I know those guys, but we also tried to do something with Cranford with a, with the zoning department, and that didn't work out too well. We kind of got the same taste of Cranford's my main priority, when I can get here I will, and I'll look at stuff when I have time. So we actually wound up bringing that back here in Garwood and funding it, so this way we have our own zoning department. As far as shared services, sure, I'll look at anything as long as it works and as long as the Garwood residents get what they deserve out of that shared service. Thank you.
Other questions? Anybody?
As a lot of you sitting here know, this time of year is usually called the silly season, and with that in mind, there's a lot of things that have been repeatedly showing up in the media, in literature and whatnot with regard to services that the residents have lost. And what I would like to ask and have an answer from each candidate, if what services you believe have been eliminated to the residents. Now, but keeping in mind that bulk pickup has been brought back as a fee-based program to participants, and leaf removal is still being done. They do take up the bag, the borough supplies the bags. So that's my question. If you believe that the residents have lost services in the past couple of years, which services do you believe have been eliminated, and how would you finance their return?
Okay, Ms. Kearney?
I believe that there are no services that were removed from the borough. None whatsoever.
Mr. Petruzzelli?
I actually agree with Mrs. Kearney. I don't think any services have been removed with the fee-based bulk program. I think that makes that more fair. for people who want to get rid of stuff. I think that was the primary reason, or one of the reasons why we got rid of that and went to that fee-based service, was so that every resident isn't paying for another resident somewhere else to have property line to property line, 6 feet deep of bulk, and you have none on your side. Plus, there was some abuse from the outside with other things coming in, but I don't think any services have been taken away over the past years.
Ms. Simitz.
I appreciate the question around bulk, because I think that it is a service that not all residents will utilize. But in talking to the residents of the town, they do feel that bulk was the one thing that has been one of the services that has been taken away. And there's been some conversations around the leaf pickup. It's my understanding, I'm not sure what the previous leaf schedule was, but that there's a shortened window of opportunity for leaf pickup. And last, I have heard some of the more senior residents of the town complaining about having to bag their leaves, but we still do offer that service.
Ms. Todisco.
Thank you. I would say that I agree. Services have not been removed, but I would also say they have been changed. As you know, many of you probably already know, I did vote against mandatory leaf bagging, even though I do recognize there are positives of that as well as negatives. That was my vote. However, it's definitely something that I think has its benefits, but it's not a bad idea to certainly keep the conversation out there for the residents, especially because I have heard some residents very upset with that. I've also heard some residents that love it. So it's just something we need to be mindful of and maybe judge over time as to whether or not we should go back the way it was or not. As far as bulk goes, I think that's an interesting one, because it seems like the campaign of our opposition is riding on the idea of taxes have gone up over the years and services have been cut, which was the same campaign by Republicans in 2010, and yet the GOP chairman, who became finance chair after being elected in 2011, did not put bulk back into the budget, and then it went to the fee-based program. So if anyone is upset with that service being changed, I think it needs to be out there that basically no one has said, let's put it back in the budget. No Republican or Democrat. I think that's important to note. Thank you.
Other questions?
I noticed walking down North Avenue, the Westwood has a huge parking lot. St. Anne's Church has a used parking lot. Can the borough make any sort of arrangement with those two entities to use some of their parking when it's not being used by the Westwood or St. Anne's Church?
Ms. Green.
We do have a parking committee. I do not have any of the, could not answer those questions. I do know that they've been out, the committee has been out working on this diligently, and I'm going to turn this over to Lou Petruzzelli because he may have the answers to that I do not have. I'm not privy to that information.
Mr. Petruzzelli.
Yes, I am on the parking committee. Yeah, those two pieces of parking lot were looked into. Basically, the church kind of said no. And the other parking lot over here by the Westwood, I think it's actually owned by the building across the street, and they use that for parking for their employees. So as you can see, parking is an issue around town. To have the space in order to park cars is a real problem, and it's something that we are working on, and we will find solutions for it, but they'll be the right solutions.
Ms. Lynn.
Thank you, sir, for that question. I think it's thinking out of the box in terms of areas that we can look at for parking. And again, I'm not part of the parking committee, so I'm not privy to the conversations that have been had, but I think it's worth reopening the discussions again. Maybe we can make a donation to the church. I don't know what they might accept, but if we could use that lot and have a $5 a day permit or whatever we decide on would make sense for the commuters and for the people of Garwood, maybe part of that could go back to the church as a donation.
Ms. Todisco.
Thank you. Again, I think it's an excellent question that you asked. I think the idea of using existing blacktop is a perfect idea. I'm happy that Councilman Petruzzelli has answered that question in terms of what the committee has actually done and has communicated with both of those property owners. The idea of the municipality giving a donation to the church has me concerned. My gut instinct is that a municipality would have a very difficult time doing that. I can't say 100% for certain, but I'm just saying my gut instinct there would be that could be a problem of religion and state.
Other questions?
I actually have, that might be a oddball question. So I'm relatively new in town, 2.5 years here on the northern side. I teach ecology at Rutgers at Newark. So the question, of course, I have to ask is, to the candidates here, what would you do to promote sustainability? I'm not talking only about recycling, but also rain gardens, reducing of runoff of water into the sewer system, for instance, reducing use of pesticides in public areas, maybe in private areas. Because Union County has a program for this, so would you be interested looking what Union County is doing, taking this into our town as well?
If you want, I'll start on this side. So,
No? Okay.
yeah, if you want, Carol, I feel bad you're going first every time.
Yeah, you go.
No problem. I'll stand up first and answer this question, but I have to say, Councilman Neerstedt sitting behind you is probably trying this, get out of this chair. He can't wait to talk to you. But I can say this, it's definitely something that we would be interested in, that I would personally be interested in, and I will give Councilman Neerstedt some kudos right now. He sent me a lot of emails about bees and pesticides. He made me so aware of this issue that I really had no clue about. But I'm the Board of Health liaison, so I took it to the Board of Health. They pretty much didn't want anything to do with it. I'm just the liaison, I'm just the messenger. But the board didn't make a move with it, but Councilman Neerstedt did. He went to Home Depot, since they're here in Garwood, and said, these pesticides are killing bees, which is a problem. I don't have to tell you what the problem is. And they said, oh, not a problem, we will take it off our shelf. So he single-handedly did that, and I think that's a great job.
Well, I'm personally, we use pesticides in our yard because we have a lot of bees in our yard, and so we get rid of them because we have kids and a dog. So I don't know how we would manage that town-wide. I think it's something that we need to look into, and I was going to provide the same exact answer that Sara did. You should really talk to Bill Neerstedt because he's the champion when it comes to that kind of stuff. Thank you.
You want to talk to Bill?
Yeah, I'm going to have a story. Actually, and this is, I've got to know Bill, very well, and he's really opened up my eyes on a lot of things as far as recycling, pesticides, the brook, spraying of the brook, the chemicals that go in the brook. Actually, this year, we did not spray the brook, and we're talking about chemicals. We did not spray it, which we normally do to get rid of the vegetation. I don't know if I'm leading into the next question from somebody about things that are in the brook, but,
Things that are coming out of it.
But,
Or are they?
but it's interesting because the years that we did spray the brook, we had more number of rats. And the years when we did not, we had less. So in order to try to figure that perfect balance, I know this year we actually paid a company twice to walk into the brook to investigate and look for burrows and things, and they didn't find anything. Okay, they said everything was okay, so therefore we did not spray the brook and put any kind of chemicals.
Coming from Cranford.
What's that?
Coming from Cranford.
Okay. So anyway.
Shared resources.
Yes, I would support.
Yes, I support anything that has to do with ecology and clean living. And Bill Neerstedt will definitely take care of that. We all know that. I saw him one day walking down Center Street with a popsicle stick in his hand. And I said, Bill, why are you holding that? He said, because I'm going to take it home and recycle it. I said, oh, okay. No problem.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
For all four of you, Councilpersons Petruzzelli and Todisco, will you commit to publicize that draft ordinance about the athletic field administration, particularly the lights and the opening and closing, before the election? And to Ms. Kearney and Ms. Simitz, should they commit to publicize that? And secondly, will you reach out to the people in the immediate area of the athletic field? These poor people have no idea when this thing opens or closes or what's going on right next door to them. Will you reach out to them specifically about what's in that ordinance? And Ms. Kearney and Ms. Simitz, should they commit to reach out to them?
Well,
I guess the first question is for Mr. Petruzzelli.
right. Well, I would, with that question, I would have to say that since I'm not on that committee, it does seem from tonight that they are close, and, you know, we're both outside the committee, so we're in that camp together. I also heard that it had to go off to Green Acres for approval, so where are we with that? I think we need a little more information before we can say whether it will be on Tuesday night or not, but again, I'm not privy to that information, so Councilman Petruzzelli, maybe you can answer it better than I could.
Well, I can say that it won't be there on Tuesday. However, I will make sure that it is public, and I will actually go over to those residents. Because certain people have contacted me asking questions about rules, how long the lights are gonna stay on, and things like that. I don't have an issue with that. But you won't see it on Tuesday.
Ms. Kearney?
If it's not gonna be ready on Tuesday, then, I mean, you can't go to the residents and say, well, maybe it's going to be this or maybe it's going to be that. You have to really know. You have to have the correct answers. Should it be done or should it have been done before? They've been working on it, that's all I know. I mean, I don't sit in on the committees. I do not know, you know, what they really have to do. I understand there's a lot of steps. I understand there's the committee, the rec commission, it has to go to, it goes to certain different levels. And until you can get all that information in place, I would not want to give out improper information to the residents in Garwood.
I would agree with that. I think it needs to be put into place, and it needs to be publicized. And the people of the town deserve to know what's going on a $3.2 million field complex.
Okay, I think it's time for closing statements. Each candidate will have 3 minutes. You will get a warning when you have 1 minute remaining. Ms. Kearney.
Okay. As the Republican candidate for council here in the borough, I will work for the residents. I will not make promises I cannot keep, like reducing taxes. But I assure you I will work diligently as a strong advocate for development to bring ratables that will reduce our tax burden. I believe in smart development. Smart development to me is sensible, mixed-use, affordable, ratables, transit village minded. The North and South Avenue corridors, the Casale and the Garwood Paperboard properties and the New Jersey Transit Initiative are at the forefront of keeping Garwood a viable community. Garwood should not be left behind, but the development should be smart. One more issue I have, which we discussed earlier, is there would be an $80,000 savings to the borough. Which is very hard for me to say, but I'm going to say it, over the next 3 years in medical benefits if one of the council people are reelected. If you want an independent thinker who will always vote for what's best for Garwood, the homeowners, the renters, the businesses, the senior citizens, and the children, then vote for Carol Kearney. I will not be pressured into voting by anyone. When I start something, I finish it. I use all the tools to make things happen. Again, if you want an independent thinker on council who will vote for you, then vote for me. Thank you again for coming to this forum and listening to me.
Mr. Petruzzelli.
Thank you. It's actually it's actually difficult for a person like me to stand up here and actually self-promote. I'm not an I person. I am much better off, being a person, behind the scenes, working hard. And, however, I want to share something with you tonight for the type of council person that I am. Although I wholeheartedly support the athletic field complex because it will be a great complex for all to enjoy, from children to adults to senior citizens, the project has become very frustrating for me personally because I am the liaison. I'm not the spearhead, I'm not heading the project, I'm just the liaison who reports back to council to give them information about what's going on with the field. However, I have never backed away from any kind of a difficult situation or hard work. I have attended every single monthly construction meeting since December 2012. And I also have to add that with the construction, with the athletic field, when we first went out to bid, we did have one person or one company come up and threaten a lawsuit, which stopped the first bidding process, okay? So we did have to rebid. I don't know if anybody really remembers that, but unfortunately I do. So these monthly construction meetings, they typically happen about twice a month. So luckily for me, with my own business and being in town, I'm able to attend every single one of them, which enables me to visit the complex weekly. I have gone to the site for almost 2 years now, and I am constantly answering and sending emails about this project, in addition to getting on the phone, calling the contractor, calling other people just to see what holdups are and what else needs to get done. I'm kind of well known down there where they know me by name, they know my truck when I pull in, and a couple of them say, oh boy, he's back again. So if that's the way it is, then that's fine with me, I don't have a problem with it. My experience in construction, specifically with electric, has actually saved the borough about $45,000 when this project happened. Public Service originally was going to charge us to bring in the 3-phase power that was needed to operate the facility. I brought them into a meeting, we spoke about a lot of stuff, they were able to waive their fees for us. So that was something that, that was a huge savings, to the borough for this project. I may not be as outspoken at a council meeting as other people are, but I can always count on, or you can always count on me to do my job. And you can ask both Republican mayor and former Democrat mayor about my bipartisan work ethic. I can always be counted on to get a response to a resident if they have a question. And if so we're elected on November 4th, I will be working hard to serve all residents, Democrats and Republicans, voters and non-voters. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I want to start by thanking the residents of the Pointe and for Mr. Connolly for being such a gracious and spirited moderator. But what I'm going to close on tonight is some of the things that I've heard from the residents of town, because I think it's no secret to the folks in the audience that I'm new to politics. But to me, it's about the people of the town. And it's really been an eye-opening experience, because the two things that I've heard most in the town are that the people of this town love Garwood, myself included, but they feel like their voices haven't been heard. From the dissatisfied baseball moms like myself who want answers on the $3.2 million field completion dates, and from the seniors who actually never got a chance to even vote on the field, which has increased the town's debt. Maybe it's only 36%, but I'm sticking to my number of 66%. And those who wonder about the maintenance costs and the lights and so on that go along with the field. From a young woman, it's interesting, you speak to voters of all ages, and we spoke to a young woman on the north side who said that a commuter literally stalks her every single day for her parking space outside of her house. And when she gets home from work, there's no parking there for her. And from the gentleman who actually lives across the street from Lou, he said he won't be able to stay in town much longer because his taxes have nearly doubled since 2000. So I'm bringing it back to the residents, and I think it's really important to point out that I'm not part of the old guard. I've been living in town for 4 years, and I don't have 26 years of experience in raising taxes. But what I do have is 20 years of real-world experience in client services, managing budgets of over $2 million, and being accountable for each and every penny, making tough decisions on behalf of my clients. And if I'm elected, I'll certainly be looking things with a fresh perspective. I may ask questions, I may make mistakes, but I'm going to do my best to represent all the residents of Garwood. And I'm going to treat them like I treat my clients, with respect, working on behalf of their needs, listening to them, holding myself accountable and the members of council accountable for their actions as well. So if you want a different path forward, please vote for me on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you for being such a great moderator, and everyone here at the Pointe for hosting us tonight to talk about one of the things that I love to talk about the most, and that's Garwood. When thinking about how I could sum up myself and who I am as a council person, I actually thought of someone who did it better than I ever could have, and certainly a lot shorter than I ever could have. And that is a former Republican councilman who on his last day in office went around the dais and he thanked each of us for helping him and supporting him and working with him as a member of the council. But when he got to me, he said, well, Sara, she's just 24/7 council. And that is who I am. Not a single day goes by that I don't think about past decisions we've made as the part of the council that I'm on, councils before me, and how they are affecting residents today. Sometimes for the positive, sometimes for the negative. Also thinking about and working on items before me now, whether in my committee or just as a member of the council in general. And then finally, also always looking for new ideas and what we can use to move Garwood forward. Garwood is a great town, but it can be even better. I truly believe that. I'm surprised the question wasn't asked tonight about specific ways we could save money, but I have an answer to that. I actually agree with both mayoral candidates who spoke last week about Democratic candidate Charles Lombardo, who said we need to more seriously pursue purchasing agreements to save money on things we already need to buy. Candidate Pierulli, who spoke about the Shop Local program, I think that's a great idea. I was visiting a friend who lives in Cherry Hill, and Voorhees, the town next door, has that program, so I was very curious about it. However, I do think we need to be careful. We are a small town with only a certain number of businesses. We need to make sure our businesses would be on board with that before we actually mandate to them a program. Also, I think we need to keep working to get as much out of Union County as we can through shared services and otherwise. Again, I mentioned it a few times tonight, but redevelopment is a great way to save the taxpayers money in the future. And also, I've had an idea that I've mentioned many times on the council about looking at how we do our recycling. Right now, we pay a private hauler, and that private hauler makes money on us. If we can change that so that we can reduce the cost of doing what we need to do, and that is pick up people's recycling, then I think we need to do that. So those are my specific ideas for how to save you, the residents, money going forward. And again, it has been my absolute privilege to be your representative for the past 4 years, and know that if you vote for me on November 4th, you will get a 24/7 council person. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said earlier, we are all indebted to these four people for their commitment to spending a great deal of time and effort over the next few years in our service. And thank you to everyone for showing up. Be sure to vote on November 4th. Thank you.